Welcome back to Gun Tote Minnesotan. Today I have the Vanguard carbon fiber monopod, kind of bipod and tripod setup. This can do everything. It is extendable and it's easy to carry. I'm really excited to talk more about this. This is the Quest T62CU. That is the model and designation. And like I said, there's 3 legs that can articulate differently. They can also extend out. All 3 can. And I've been messing around with this, just thinking about hunting, especially about hunting. This might be the most versatile, like tripod, bipod, monopod kind of system I have ever used. And I think it's going to be an awesome addition to the channel, especially when it comes to hunting, the kind of hunting that I do anyways. A nice lightweight carry like this can go a long ways. And again, just the versatility of the many things in many ways that something like this can be used. I can imagine packing with this thing. I can imagine putting it in my pack because it's so light and pretty small footprint. And I can imagine actually shooting stuff with it. So where I'm at right now, I have a gopher problem. It's actually kind of bad right now. Woodchucks and gophers are getting to be really bad this year. And right behind me, I have a target sitting right over there. You can kind of see that white in the corner of the screen. And it's a little overcast today, kind of dark. But that target, that's about 35, 40 away, probably 35 from right here. At 35 yards away, I'm gonna be having this with me all the time. It's in my car, it's my vehicle, it's here at work. And a lot of times, if I have my pellet rifle with me, which I always do actually, especially here, I wanna be able to step outside, and if I can't freehand a shot, because gophers are very small and sometimes they're 60 yards away, I wanna be able to balance on something and get a controlled shot. And just testing this out in the immediate couple hours after I got this thing, it's amazing what an impact, shift, and difference this steadiness makes, even as a monopod, especially as a bipod. This is where it starts getting really crazy for me, how stable a guy can be off of this with a Springer or a rifle. And then obviously you go to your third option, which is a tripod, probably more set up like this. And now you have just incredible stability. It's freestanding on its own. Let's look over the features a little bit, and then I want to do something. I want to take a few like knee supported shots, or supporting off my elbows, my knees from the ground. And then I'm going to take a few shots off of this, using this as a support, just to show you some group differences and how much of a difference it made for me. And I don't think I'm a terrible shooter with offhand, but this really makes me question why I even try. Starting off, you do have a nice rubberized head. This U-shaped head right here can articulate if you want it to. Okay, this can move, or you can lock it down, which is probably what I would do most of the time, tighten it up a little bit. There are 3 legs, there are 3 sections that are usable, and all of them have something I've seen on a lot of Vanguard products, especially tripods, is they have the neoprene covers. The reason that I'm going to comment on this and why I care so much is when you hunt in the fall or the winter or when it's raining out, carbon fiber is chilly. It's not quite as bad as like aluminum or steel. Raw steel is really cold, but carbon fiber can be chilly, and it's just way more comfortable. Grabbing neoprene, it has a really great temperature reduction, like the feeling to your hand. The sensitivity is just not going to be as bad as holding on to something like this. So I just appreciate the little things about this. Vanguard often has a little something orange in there just to stick out, so you can see it if you drop it. It'll spot easier in tall weeds because it's got that orange on there. It's not all black and carbon fiber. So I actually kind of appreciate the little accent piece there. It's not a bad idea for a hunting piece that's going to be in your kit when you're out hiking or off your backpack perhaps. Again, back to the features. One of the legs articulates quite far. It can actually go all the way out. You could, in theory, rest this against something that's like at a 90. And the other 2 are attached by this right here. And this is adjustable. This strap right here, which I've kind of used like a carry strap, just in my own way. I've used this as a carry strap or attaching it to my backpack. This strap right here connects these 2. So if there's a height a height that you're looking for, then what you're going to do is control the distance and articulation of these 2 legs. This is going to set your parameters and your boundaries for how far apart you want those legs to go, and imagine them extending further and further. So if you want it to be taller, you can tighten this tensioner up by pulling on this right here. Or if you want there to be a wider stance and you want it to be wide and stable but lower, then you can loosen it up. It's just like the way that you would imagine it to be, like a backpack, straps, things like that, gun slings as well. And so these three can work together, or you could just do the two of them like this, depending on what's more expedient and practical and accurate for your situation. Or if you really don't have time, you really could just pop one leg out if you're really in that much of a rush and still shoot off of one. And the nice thing is, for me, I'm 6'5", I'm very tall. It's actually hard to find a lot of things that fit me well. With this, if you can see this here, I can actually load up in my rifle in a pretty normal and natural presentation to my target. I don't have to get way down. See, this would be too low. That's like PRS stages low, shooting off a tank trap. But this right here is actually pretty natural. I feel very normal right here. I don't feel like I'm fatiguing my muscles. And so the only reason I say that is it doesn't really matter how tall you are. You're gonna be able to find a way to make this work. And it doesn't matter how strong you are. This carbon fiber tripod is so light, it's not gonna weigh you down. This is easily twice as carryable as most other modern tripods, which they're gonna be bigger. They're more for a centered hunting spot where you're going to hike in a lot of gear, you're gonna set up maybe, and tripods from Vanguard, they have some bigger ones. They have great tripods for staking out a location, staying there for a long time. But if you're on the move, or you need to stay very lightweight on the way to your hunt camp or a location, or maybe you're doing a drive, and you have the chance to take a more stable shot, I'm telling you, this right here is hard to beat. I think this is the best design I've seen on the market, and it doesn't have to be overly complicated to be the best. Unfortunately, right now, there's not a lot that I could highly recommend. This I can highly recommend just because the design makes so much sense for so many people, and it's hard to find a downside to this at all. All right, now I'm gonna shut up and we can go look at some groups after I take a few shots here. I'll record a little bit just so you can see what the differences are and how I'm holding myself, how I'm holding the rifle versus when I'm set up on the Vanguard Quest. And of course, as soon as I get set up, it starts to rain. I may have to switch locations or finish filming this a different day if the rain doesn't let off, which I don't think it's going to. Let's go ahead and get the first shot down. Like I said, I don't think I'm terrible at knee-supported shooting or sitting off the ground. I typically get my kills, but I'm not going to say that my shot placement is always where I want it to be. Mosquitoes are really bad right now, which kind of makes it like real world, you know? Every time I get a shot on something, it's never a perfect setup. It's always something. I got gnats in the face, bugs trying to get my eyes. Okay, there's an example of 3. Now I'm going to set up with the Quest here. I'm telling you, that is just so much more preferable. And if I had a pack or a bag or something, it would actually be under here or in my lap. So if you carry this on your backpack, you take your backpack off and you put it underneath here and it becomes a rear support, and suddenly you have 100% like bench level support. Maybe not 100%, we'll call it 99% bench level support. And this is a Springer, so I'm going to do my best to place this the same place every time in that rubber padding. There's one. There's two. There's three. Something else that's kind of neat about this tripod is that if I want to go lower, all I need to do technically is to expand this out. I don't always have to adjust the strap. I can, and I'm going to actually get this the right way, I can just let this leg out a little bit, and let me scoot back a little bit, and I will go lower. And the U mount here is still going to work the same. This channel is still going to work decently. It's got these little bit of ribs in here. Hopefully you can see, focus on that. Hopefully you can see that it does have these ribs in here, and they still work fine. So in a pinch, if I needed to quickly adjust that, that's probably what I would do. And the advantage of going a little bit lower is if I need to go lower, I actually don't need to get in such a pinched position. And so I'm gonna set this up a little better just to show you what I mean. There we go. So now that it's a little lower in the mount, this is still rock solid. This is still really steady, but I don't have to get pretzeled up quite as much. And as you get older, that starts to, it seems like it matters more as I get older, that I just want to be comfortable where I'm at. And this right here, I have good bone on bone support, or not bone on bone, bone on muscle support. So my knees can kind of go inside or over, and so that I'm not right there, kind of inside, get some solid support for taking a more precise shot. All right, so let me explain what this is. I did 2 groups of 3 shots at 35 with a springer. Got to remember it's with a springer, so those are kind of hold sensitive at times. And the first group, all misses without using the Vanguard. Okay, this was just off the knees, and if I had a little bit of body exposure from a gopher, it would still be a hit. But if I'm going for the head, which very often it's just a headshot presented, they'll stick their head out of the gopher hole and kind of safety check. And if they see you, they might go back in. So you got to take the shot. These would be more than likely a miss. And he's not coming back out of that hole after you hit that close to him. He's scared now. And so that's what I did. I had 3 misses in the first one. Consistency is obviously spread pretty wide. And then I had 1 impact on this side, just a clip really. But 1 impact on this side and 2 more misses. And that's with just going off the knees, doing my best to hold it. And that's just the best I could do, guys. I'm sure that's indicative of a normal day to me. I'm not gonna use the rain or the bugs as an excuse. I think that's just what it would be most of the time for me with a springer. And I went down here, and down here you can see there's 1 out. And on this side, there's 1 out, but the other 2 are in. And so if I had more time, if it wasn't going to rain on me, I would have done 5-shot groups, because I'm almost 100% confident that there would be more outs over here and there might not be any more hits over here, but this grouping would show you just how much tighter it is. If you look at this, this is, gosh, it's pretty bad. That's about a 2-inch group right there. This is maybe 1.5 inches and just barely clipping it on the bottom, whereas these are under 1 inch. So my consistency with a gun that is known to be, relatively hold sensitive compared to other rifles, relatively hold sensitive, and I'm still getting, essentially my kill shots that I need. And the grouping looks much more like what I expect to see out of that rifle. Off of the bench, believe it or not, that HW97 at 50 yards will do about 1 hole groups. They're all touching, it'll clover leaf on a windless day. With wind like today, it would not be over 1 inch at 100 yards, or at 50 yards rather. And so these groups right here are much closer to what I'm used to, and they're certainly hunting acceptable groups. I don't hunt anything smaller than a headshot, a gopher headshot, at about 35 to 60 yards. So these right here, really cool. And to be honest with you, if I had a gopher out, I'm going to set this thing up in every way possible to get the maximum stability out of it. I'm probably going to go right about there, go wide on the legs, and I'm going to grab something like this, or if I have my pack with me, if I can, to put it under my leg. And if I don't have anything for under my leg, I'm actually going to get my knee way up like this and throw the rifle in the mount a little bit more like this. Now, I didn't do that because it was going to block the camera shot, but I would get up more like this, and now I feel really, really steady. I think that's maybe what I should do in the next portion. If I go to Centerfire or rimfire, we're going to look at a little bit different harmonics. The harmonics are going to be different, the recoil impulse is going to be different, and it just won't be exactly the same as running with a Springer. But to see here with this traditional stock rifle that I can make some decent kill shots off of this. It's not a hassle to carry. It's very, very light, and it has a small footprint, and it's quick. It's really quick to set up. It doesn't take much thought at all. And I can do it standing, I can do it kneeling, I can do it sitting off of the bench behind me and just set it up a little taller. It's very, very flexible for the things that I would do in hunting for small game and varminting especially. All right, in just a second, I'm gonna turn off my microphone, and at 80 yards, I'm just gonna see if I can go 3 for 3 on a small piece of steel. I probably wouldn't be shooting too many bigger critters at this distance with a Springer, especially a 177, but you should be able to hear those impacts here at 80 yards, just shooting off of my knee and then using this Vanguard as a primary support. Very stable where I'm at, and it took me half a second to set it up. So here we go. There's first impact. Second impact. Third impact. Those are pretty routine from here. So this right here is a pretty ideal setup for me, because I can kind of sit on one foot, and then I can use, again, my support for my knee. I can have one hand up here on the tripod if I just need a place to put it to keep things steady. I could come back here if I need to have some additional support. I'm gonna keep it up here because I think in a hunting scenario, I think this is probably what I would do. There's an impact. This is a really, really steady position, especially if you're comfortable with NRL 22 firing positions. If you do a little bit of gun game stuff, the PRS or NRL field, this is going to feel very natural to you. And it's amazing how steady you can get with just one support like that, and then a fixed position in the rear, basically off of bone and muscle support in here. I think I'm going to have to save the rest of my filming for other days. It's a little too overcast to keep going further tonight. And I am going to hunt a little bit anyways, but I just wanted to show you one more position. So kneeling, extremely effective. Sitting, probably the most effective, but standing is not too different. than the kneeling position. I actually find that the standing position, depending on the balance and the position you are used to shooting off of, I'm just gonna move my center of gravity a touch forward on this. I don't want it to hinge on here. I do want it to take a lot of the weight, but I'm just moving it an inch forward from where I was shooting before. And right here, there's a couple different ways I can get in and get support with both hands and my arms on the rifle. I can widen my stance, and instead of doing this thing, I'm gonna lock my knees actually, just like in NRL or PRS, if you're shooting off of a stage or a barrier, I'm gonna lock my knees. And because it has that third leg, guys, this is what's probably the biggest deal to me, is you have the option of a third leg. I can load into this. I can put weight into it, and from right here, I'm actually loading in. The mouth on this tripod is actually grabby enough, especially on this traditional style stock that I'm running right here. It's grabby enough that it's holding the rifle in place. I can load into it and get a good balance point, and now I actually feel really, really stable, just like this. Believe it or not, and I'm going to have to show it, I'm going to have to back it up with some video evidence, I feel comfortable taking shots, probably hunt kill shots with a Centerfire off of this out to 300 yards easily. Maybe 600 yards if the conditions are perfect, but even in crappy conditions at 300 yards, this thing right here makes enough difference that, you know, I wouldn't take those shots just shooting off my knees, probably not off a tree branch, but this right here, I would take game out to extended distances with a a really decent caliber. At 600 yards, you're starting to talk about really big bullets. But at 300 yards, my regular old 308 and a deer, I would do it off of this right here. An elk with a bigger caliber, I would do it off of this right here. And the advantage is, one more time, that third leg for support. I can leave it up if I feel like I need to move positions very quickly. Picking this up, it weighs next to nothing. I can quickly move and engage a different animal if I have more than one shot available to me. Another advantage of this, it's not locked in, which means I can change positions. I can lift up my rifle. I can pack my things up fast. I don't have to worry about a clamp, which sometimes is nice, but sometimes you don't want to. And with this right here, articulating the way I have it set up right now, I can track with an animal. If I'm shooting up, maybe you're shooting up a ravine, you're at the bottom, you see the elk towards the top, not at the very top of the hill, don't take that shot, but towards the top of the hill. And right now, I can actually get into position up at a pretty steep angle, if you can see that right there. Another potential and more likely angle would be something down like this, and this is even more stable. It's a little more natural. I can still lock out and load into the tripod rather. But if I did not have time and this was to the side and I had a really quick kill shot I need to make, I can set this up. If I'm carrying around like this, it's a quick spread to get that out. I could use my foot, go like that, and I'm ready to go. I can still load into it a little bit. I just don't have resistance right there. So I'm actually just kind of using my muscles to hold the position. But even that, or off of the top like this, is immensely more balanced and trustworthy than the old, let's see what I can do. I just don't think I would take shots on animals like this beyond maybe a couple hundred yards. For sure, I would not do it at 300 yards, whereas with this Vanguard Quest, I just think this extends my consistency, my likelihood, and my trust of my ballistics and my rifle. It just elevates everything, so I'm much more likely to get a good shot off and take that good shot on an animal that might be on the move, might be at an inconvenient angle. If I don't have something like this with me, I'm probably more than likely just to try to get closer to the animal. So if I have to try to get closer to the animal, there's a chance they're going to escape. They're going to run down in a ravine, they're going to get into the thicket or in some woods. I might lose them, they might catch my scent. But this is kind of a distance extender. It allows me to be comfortable taking a further shot, a more precise shot, and probably a more ethical shot as well. It's a really good product. This is a great idea. So here's where I'm at. I've got 100 yards over here and 300 yards over here. I've got a Ruger American and 300 blackout. You'll see that I have a bipod on it, but a lot of times in a hunting scenario, it just might be really tricky to see over weeds and brush. Look at some of the vegetation around me, even just tall grass. If you're limited to that much height right there, that might not be enough. It might not be a surface that you can get comfortable on. Maybe it's rocks or something just really scratchy. Maybe it's muddy, I don't know. There's times where you can't get down in the prone to take those shots, and it just might not be practical. Although, if I can do it, I will. But when I can't, I think this right here, this Quest tripod is gonna be a really good alternative to the prone. It's gonna be probably the next best thing for steadiness and sitting comfortably. So what I'm gonna do is I have a Vanguard tripod here. I think this is the HAP, is it 262? 265, sorry. 265 HAP tripod. I've got a Vanguard monocular 10X on here, 10x42 with ED glass, and I'm gonna go ahead and focus on some targets, some steel here at 100 yards, and I'm gonna be shooting off of this tripod in two configurations. The first couple shots, I'm gonna do it in a tripod configuration with all three legs being functional. And then after that, I'm gonna put away one and I'm gonna shoot with just two legs, like that. As if I didn't have time maybe to get down and extend the third leg, which doesn't take more than a half a second, but let's just pretend that you had to take a really split-second shot. So it's really hot. I have to film in the shade because it's actually almost 90 degrees with high humidity. So I'm not gonna step out in the sun a whole lot, but I'll try to give you a better look at a little bit of this in the future. I'm definitely gonna stand and do a little shooting over here at 300 just to see if I can follow up and make good on my commitment to try that out. All right, first off at 100 yards, and at 100 here, I don't know, what are those, 10-inch plates, something like that. Not terrible, it's still a kill zone on a deer or an elk, and I'm gonna use this ultralight lightweight fill bag. This thing weighs next to nothing. It would be easy to fit in your backpack, and I should show you some backpack support shooting later, just to show you how you can make use of the product with the things you already have with you when you're hunting. I'm gonna use that as an underleg support. All right, so I do have a rounded belly on this heat seeker chassis, which would work great with this, as well as an ARCA plate now installed. The ARCA plate still works just fine. And by the way, I am using 220 grain subs. So if you had a can on this, it would be a pretty awesome combination. Let's go ahead and get her settled in. Just a little past 100 yards. All right, let's switch it over to just the two supporting legs and the strap underneath. Still at 100. Ooh, just a little right on that one. I understand that 100 or a little past 100 yards is very, very close, but in the wooded areas I live, this is actually what would be considered practical shooting for most people when it comes to big game. Varmints, you know, I might be able to take varmints quite a bit further. I'm probably going to switch calibers. I'm probably not going to use 300 blackout for that. But if I was shooting a woodchuck, or maybe even a deer or something like that, 100 yards and in is very practical here. We have a lot of woods and we have things that we're usually having to navigate around, like there's hills in the way, something like that. And so this is actually my least accurate rifle by far. This Ruger American happens to print something like 3 MOA typically with anything other than 125 grainers. The SIG 125 grain does print sub MOA. I think it's a rather particular barrel for ammo, but everything else, yeah, it tends to be around 3 MOA. So there's already that much air built into it. And if I'm shooting on an 8-inch or 10-inch target at 100 yards, it's a very generous sized target, but that's about the kill zone. And I felt very comfortable taking those shots off of the Quest here. Even though it's ultra light, the legs are not big and fat like the other tripods. Like I have another Vanguard tripod right here, which has big fat tubes on those legs and twister legs for the barrels. It's a great tripod, and being able to ARCA click into that. But I know a lot of people are way more likely to carry something like this, and quite frankly, it could be more expedient. I could see this situation being more expedient, where if I need to just see over the weeds a little bit, I can sit down, plop down, and I have the time to get at least 2 of the legs out. Then I can really increase my chances of, or my likelihood of having a solid impact. Now, one thing that I think helped me as I got going there and I was practicing is when I took this, originally I don't think I had the legs spread all the way, but just giving them proper tension, spread all the way, and then I had my hand up here on the neck. I was just controlling the neck a little bit, and as you're tracking with game, you might need to move your position just slightly. Being able to track with that and keep my hand up here as well as on the rear of the rifle, and then remember I'm using this ultralight, kind of like a bag filler or a rear sport bag. Using that behind, that actually made me feel pretty comfortable when I was using all of them properly, my trigger pulls were where they probably should have been. Something just worth showing real quick, this is threaded, so if you wanted to, you could put something else on top of here. This is not the only one that will thread onto that, it's pretty universal. I'll put this back on. This is what I'm going to stick with personally. I think it makes the most sense for the way that I use a hunting monopod, bipod, tripod system like this. Here's what my idea is. Now I want to extend it onto one leg and do some standing at 100 yards with just one leg. Quite frankly, if I'm walking around with it, it's going to be extended to 2 legs, but just for fun, I'm going to see what I can do with one leg extended at 100 yards. You should be able to hear those impacts just fine. Yeah, it makes a big difference. I'm going to tell you, freehanding that, I think it probably would have been mostly misses. Mostly. And this is just going to be a big difference maker. Let's try it with the 2 legs standing now. That is immensely easier than the single leg, and the single leg is immensely easier than just kind of trusting my hold and trying to freehand it. And 3 legs is going to be way easier. Let's switch over to 3 legs now and see what happens. Another way that you can use the Vanguard Quest tripod is to actually give yourself some sort of rear support. So if I'm taking a longer or longer-ish shot on an animal, where I just have the time to get really comfortable and I can shoot over the weeds with something like this, I'm going to actually use my bag. If I'm trekking with a bag, maybe this is attached, I'm going to get down, sit on the ground for a second, take it off my pack, and I'm actually going to use my pack in the rear as a rear support for the butt of the rifle, and I'm going to get comfortable behind it so that the front is now fully supported. The ribs from this little V-notch are going to hold on to the rifle and the weight of the rifle, and I'm actually going to extend it out just a touch. And then back here, now off of my rifle, this is very, very, very steady. And all I really had to do was throw in a mini light loft bag and my coat or my sweater. I can throw that on top of this, Everly stock hunting backpack. And this right here is extremely steady. The advantages of that are if you're maybe tracking with an animal, you're trying to count tines and you need to be steady in your glass. Trying to get off your knees or rest off your knees and make a shot, that's pretty difficult. But then when you're trying to actually get detail of an animal or some sort of critter, just trying to see what's down there, it's nice to be able to stabilize everything. And so this is almost bench quality stability right here. Not quite, but almost bench quality. Now, of course, my front end is not locked in. Vanguard has tripods that I could QD in and out of, whether it was Picatinny or Arca. But this has, an accessibility and a speed and a flexibility to it, which is so unique. If I need to quickly address a different animal or a different target, and I want to move things around, or I want to go to a different rifle. If I've got two rifles with me, I've got a rimfire and a centerfire, depending on what I'm hunting, I can really quickly switch things out, and it's not a hassle at all. It doesn't require any proprietary tools or bits or attachment points. You just rest the rifle right in the notch and get yourself a good rear support position like this, and you're really set to go. I like this one quite a bit. I'm going to go ahead and record, I think, a few shots here at 300 yards. I'll set up my Vanguard spotter, which is sitting over here. It's a little 10X. And with that 10X, we should be able to see some impacts on a piece of steel there. I'll give it just a handful of shots, but it should give you an idea of the quality of rest. If I can do it with my least accurate rifle, with my least precise ammo, that combination right there, if I can do it with this, you can do it with probably anything at 300 yards. And I happen to have a monopod in the rear, which can help. Often I don't need it, actually. The backpack usually is tall enough, but I can plant it down and dig it into a soft spot there and get really steady behind this, just about there. Okay, and if the wind dies off, I can send a couple here. Oh! I don't know if the other camera caught that, but a turkey just ran by. He probably almost got his head blown off. There you go. The bag really makes a difference in the rear, but if I didn't have this front support, the bag would not be sufficient for me. I really need this front support, and the tripod capability makes a huge difference. Let's try another shot. You know, I'm having a really good experience with these Vanguard tools, and I'm going to tell you, I can definitely recommend this Vanguard Quest T62CU. I think the thought process behind this tripod is a very good one. It's definitely for hunters and marksmen who want to take ethical shots, and they don't want to just try to free hold a shot that might be, you know, 100 yards, might be a couple hundred yards. Maybe you're using a load that isn't, you know, sub MOA, and you need a little bit of extra help just to make sure that that shot lands exactly where it's supposed to. And I'm a huge advocate for ethical hunting. I'm also an advocate for long range shots on animals. The two are not opposites. You can put them together, but you're going to need some gear to do it. And whether it's in the winter, the fall, summer, spring, I can see this in every season making a lot of sense, because it's lightweight. It has the features that I'm going to need, like the legs just clicking together. It's little things like that. It's not going to separate. So these can snap together. And then they have something to provide tension. This strap at the bottom, which is adjustable. And a third articulating leg. These kind of features are things that make a lot of sense to me, and I will actually grab something like this and put it in the bag or attach it to the side of the bag, most likely, with a hunt, because I feel like this just compounds the quality. I'm usually not going to hunt with my least accurate rifle like I was shooting today. This is just to show you that if I can do it with that, you can do it with anything. I'm usually going to take out a pretty decent rifle with some pretty decent ammo, and I'm going to practice, and I suggest you do the same thing when you get one of these. But I feel like my confidence level just went way higher for this product type. I've seen something like this before, but usually it's just two legs. And those have a place, I'm sure. You know, they're very affordable. That's probably one of the benefits. These are really affordable products. Usually it's just two legs, but the fact that this has a third option and that it extends tall enough that I really can use it, whether I'm on a bench, and I did not show that in this review, but if you were shooting at a bench, or maybe you had a chair in your hunting blind, this is a really practical application. You have the extension height that's really natural. It's going to get to where you need it to be. You have the retention where the rifle is not going to hop around on you or slide out or fall. It's also not going to damage your rifle. So like when I was shooting an HW97, that is one of the few rifles I really don't want to scratch up. I want to keep it in good condition. And so this rubberized coating both keeps it put, it deadens some of the vibration actually, and then it also doesn't mar up the sides. And so I'm really a happy camper when it comes to something like this. It's easy to throw in the bag. I can also replace the head if I find something I like more or better. And the feet seem to provide adequate grip. I have not tried them on, you know, icy conditions, winter conditions. I've got, you know, another 4 or 5 months before I'm going to get to try that again, and I will. But in the conditions I'm in, whether I was on concrete, dirt, sand, or grass, it looks like this holds up pretty well and doesn't slip out on me. Under recoil or under no recoil, I found pretty much the same results. I didn't find it hopping or sliding. I didn't find the third articulating leg here to try to get removed. You know, I didn't see it sliding out, jutting out like that. So it tells me that they've put some good thought into this. It's super affordable, guys. And if you are a hunter and you're looking to extend your range or increase your consistency for shots, I can say that with my least precise rifle, my least precise ammo, by far my worst, at 100 yards and at 300 yards, if you know your data and you're able to get into proper positions and kind of you understand the principles behind standing and shooting, kneeling and shooting, sitting or squatting and shooting, I think this is going to make you deadly and accurate. So thank you, Vanguard, for sending this out to the channel. Highly recommended. If this isn't exactly your cup of tea, then you should stick around, because I've done a review on an Endeavor tripod before that had, right here, it had a clamp on the top. And this is another model. It's actually the newer model that's been released. This has Picatinny and Arca, and this might be more so what you're looking for. So stick around, watch that. Go ahead and watch the previous videos I've made. I've had a lot of videos on Vanguard products, and all of them have been winners. I don't have a single one yet that I wouldn't stand behind. And quite frankly, I do stand behind them. I use them when I'm filming all the time. Thanks guys for watching. Please go ahead and like, share, subscribe. Ask me questions down in the comment section, or if you've got one of these products, let me know how it worked for you. I would love to hear a real world experience, a real world hunt story of what it was like for you to use these products out in the mountains and the hills, the flats, the plains, wherever it is that you go hunting.